responsible transportation members. Reid served VBTA as our transportation chair for many years. The Navy brought him here in '79. His wife Kathy and daughter Marina were born in Virginia Beach. Reid's an active member of Hampton Roads Tea Party, past chair of Tidewater Libertarian, former vice president of Virginia Beach Council of Civic Organizations, and he's been involved from the ground roots of the fight to oppose light rail in Virginia Beach since its first referendum held in '99. He's volunteered a considerable amount of time studying light rail transportation legislation, and structure of all the appointed regional government in Virginia. He's well known for his passive, passionate resistance to the underlying financial strategies for funding. But what many of us don't know, that as a young man, he was a model rail enthusiast, and while living in downtown Montreal, Reid parked his car and he chose to commute by train. He has many interesting horror stories to share regarding his recent use of the MARTA in Atlanta, Georgia for the past several years. He and his family ride the MARTA when participating at the world's largest cheerleading competitions, Cheer Sport. And you wouldn't know that by career I'm a speech pathologist, but I am. So, excuse its early morning lack of sleep. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Reid.
Good morning. Before I begin my remarks, I would like you to repeat after me. Please. A toll is a tax.
A toll is a tax.
A toll is a tax. If any of you happen to see our new state transportation
accountability committee.
Yeah, no. Our Secretary of Transportation, Aubrey Lane, he was quoted recently in the Daily Press as saying he's very much in favor of House Bill 1253 and Senate Bill 513 we're going to talk about in a minute, because it doesn't give the power to tax to an all-appointed regional entity, it just gives them the power to toll. So this is your update on light rail. I've spoken here before many times. This is to give you the most current and recent information on changes in the city. But more important today, we have an immediate need. Next week, there will be a vote. And I hope by the end of my presentation, I can encourage each of you to contact your members of the General Assembly and ask them to vote no to House Bill 1253 and Senate Bill 513. And with that, we'll kind of get into why. I have so much to cover today, it's going to be difficult, so I'm going to kind of move fast and then you can ask me your questions, because there's a lot of information. The other bill we're going to talk about is House Bill 2, which is a new bill that changes the criteria that's used by the Commonwealth Transportation Board for selecting projects that we will build in Virginia. The good news is they've added reducing traffic congestion. One would think that would be a good criteria. The bad news is they've weighted it for economic development, and that never works well for us as taxpayers. So, here we are. Hold on to your wallets, folks, because the General Assembly is now in session. And we have a new sheriff in town, and he's good to go on light rail and spend. There's a show on VH1 called Where Are You Now? This is Michael Towns, the former director of HRT. Folks, what we're going to talk about today are the people that are trying to push light rail, all appointed regional government, and billions of your tax dollars being spent on special interests. They never give up, so neither can we. And this happens to be the HRT, Hampton Roads Transit Employee of the Month. We're going to talk about House Bill 1253, Senate Bill 513, and House Bill 2. Delegate Chris Jones introduced House Bill 1253. Senator Frank Wagner introduced the Senate's sister bill, same bill, different houses, they do crossover, 513. And Chris Stolley introduced House Bill 2, which has the traffic congestion and economic development. How did we get here? Well, we got here because way back in 2002, we had a regional referendum. Everybody in the region got to vote. And the ballot initiative had a big yes campaign that was funded with $2.5 million for 6 special projects. And we had our planning commission in there. And it was a big debate, and we were out, I was out every night, it was on TV, it was everywhere. When it went to the ballot, even though the people in favor of it spent $2.5 million and we spent $44,000, it lost by a 2-to-1 margin, and it went down in flames. But they never give up. So back in 2007, the General Assembly came back, predominantly led by Republicans, and said, that referendum thing doesn't work. Forget that referendum. We'll just write up a new bill. We'll create a regional transportation authority, the Hampton Roads Transportation Authority. They voted on it. It passed by wide margins. Then Governor Tim Kaine said, woohoo, signed it into law. And you were going to have all these regional taxes and new tolls and new fees, all through all-appointed regional government. But a handful of citizens, and some of them are in this room, had the audacity to sue the General Assembly. And thanks to former Republican Chairman Pat McSweeney and lawyer extraordinaire in Richmond, we beat this, and a year later, the Supreme Court of Virginia unanimously declared House Bill 3202 unconstitutional on the basis that in Virginia, imagine that, you can't delegate the power to tax to unelected bodies. Thank you, Virginia Constitution. Well, I told you, they never give up. So my friend, Governor Bob McDonald, a Republican, who's in his waning years, decides he's going to push the largest tax increase bill in the history of Virginia, the Taxportation Bill, House Bill 2313. And that flies through the General Assembly and gets signed into law, and we now have pennies from heaven flowing down, zillions of dollars in new taxes, new fees. And that bill precipitated where we are today. And right now, next week, this has passed all the committees. They're going to vote on these bills, and we need to get a hold of them and contact. They're not voting?
It hasn't passed all.
Both are in the Transportation Committee. The House bill is in the Transportation Committee.
All right, I have a slide on it.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, our Metropolitan Planning Organization was rebranded as a Transportation Planning Organization, and the former Hampton Roads Transportation Authority is coming back with a new name, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. But if you read this bill, all they did was take the verbatim language of that bill, stick it in this bill, and cross out everywhere where it was called the one thing and change the name, and reduce some of the things that made it unconstitutional about taxation. So that's how we got to where we are today. What you need to know is this. Governor Bob created the pot of gold with this massive new spending. These two bills spend all that new tax dollars. So last year, this bill passed, and this year, this new bill is now in the General Assembly to go shopping, folks. And in addition to that, it's going to allow all appointed regional entities the power to toll and the power to levy regional debt with no limits. Now, what was that bill last year? You have to pay close attention to this, because in this bill, it increases $509 million for transit providers, HRT. It puts in $256 additional dollars for light rail. And for our own region, we gain $172 million a year just for additional transportation priorities. So Toll Booth Bob, his legacy lives on. What are those bills? This is from the summary of Senator Frank Wagner's bill. We're going to have a new commission. The TPO is going to phase out. It's going to have this replaced with this new accountability commission. Instead of 16 members, there will be 14 members. You will have members from each of these other agencies on there who can not vote but will represent special interests. In the bill, and there are a lot of it, for the first time, and it's a good thing, it has weighted voting, kind of, sort of. And the way it works in here, it says that no bill can pass unless the number of people present who are voting represent at least 2/3 of the population of the 14 counties and cities represented in our region. But you'll notice that on this is the Director of Rail and Public Transportation. State Senator Jeff McWaters, my representative, says, and Frank Wagner also says, I don't understand why you guys are upset. We need the ability to do bonding. This doesn't allow anything to do with light rail. This is just for the roads. Spend that money. Why do you guys keep getting upset? Folks, you got to read the bill. This stuff is this is out of the bill. Now, nowhere in here is there any accountability to citizens. Once this thing gets stood up, the chairman and the rules and how you're able to interact with this new regional authority are all set up by whoever is on the regional authority. There's no protections for citizens. They pick their own chairman, and different than any other, they don't even have to rotate. As long as you've been elected chairman and you are not kicked out of office in your city, you remain in that position on this committee and this commission in perpetuity. All right, decisions of the committee, whose counties and cities include at least 2/3 of the population embraced by the commission. So that's a good thing. However, no vote can go down solely on population if they're voting about something that is not, they're spending money that's not within their particular city. Authority to issue bonds. Folks, in Virginia, we're a Dillon Rule state. We have two kinds of government. You have state government in the General Assembly, and you have local government in your city council. This is creating a third kind of debt. But the debt's not going to be held against the state. It's going to be held against the revenues from new tolls. We are going to get tolled to death because you're giving an all-appointed authority one way to raise new money, and that's put tolls wherever they want without limit. No limit, no referendum required. We don't care what you think. This all-appointed body is free to do whatever they want, and they can go out and pursue any funds they wish from the federal government, the state, or any private sector entity. It's in the bill. They have the power to impose and collect tolls of any amount for anything in our region. A new tunnel, an old tunnel, a bridge, a road, your driveway, it doesn't matter. They have the authority to do that under this bill. Additional powers. I picked a couple of these. They get to set all the rules and bylaws. I've been going to these meetings for years. I fought for years just to have the right to speak. Before I did that, representing the Virginia Beach Taxpayers Alliance, you couldn't even talk at the public meetings. Now you get 3 minutes to talk about the whole billion-dollar agenda. They're also going to have the right, as I said, to get it from any public source. They're going to be able to acquire property and, once again, enter into agreements with public or private entities for the operations and maintenance of bridges, tunnels, transit and rail facilities, and highways. So when they tell you this bill is not about light rail, they're full of crap. You're reading the bill. Use of revenues by the commission. Gee, what do we have in here? Planning District 23, reduce traffic congestion, good. Safety, good. No, transit. High occupant HOV lanes. Job to housing, job to access to transit. This is how they can spend the money they raise. Pedestrian facilities, air quality, per capita vehicles mile, a little thing in your car with the GPS. They're going to bill you for the number of miles you drive your car. And that money goes into this all-appointed commission and they get to spend it. And you have no say. There are no limits. There is no sunset to this. There's no referendum required. There's no citizen votes on any of the members of this. And there are no rights detailed in the bill to tell you that you have any right to say a damn thing about this, kick anybody off there for malfeasance, or do anything. It's not the General Assembly you vote for. It's not your local government. It's a third all-appointed regional government with a bunch of other people on it. Folks, it is a huge blank check. In this, they're allowed to hire staff, consultants, attorneys, issue their own insurance. There's no limits anywhere on salaries, per diem for the commissioners that get paid, the number of consultants, the number of employees, the amount of debt they can incur, the cost for the insurance, the cost of their legal fees, the amount of advertising, the amount of lobbying, their travel budget. Who can can be exempted from the tolls is actually in the bill. It addresses that and says they're free to exempt anyone they choose. How high the tolls can be set is not specified in the bill at all, and profits guaranteed to their private sector parties are just completely not mentioned. This is not good government. Did we not learn anything from the Elizabeth River City downtown tunnel debacle, where the employees of the Elizabeth River City, the Sanka people, they don't have to pay the tolls on the downtown tunnel. They just exempted them. And they're guaranteed profits whether or not you use the tunnel or not that are taxpayer subsidized. No, this bill allows that same thing to happen. And light rail, the amount of cost overruns, 46%, people should have gone to jail. The corruption, 2 sets of books. Violation of federal contracting law, 16 counts. We've learned nothing if you don't support this bill. House Bill 2 sounds innocuous enough. I actually like part of it. But because of the way it's written, it just says, as a minimum, you can consider congestion mitigation, economic accessibility, but it doesn't preclude any other factors. This is a feel-good window dressing bill, folks. It doesn't mandate anything, it just says you could do this. Prior to the analysis, the point of all of this, you have to assess them to promote urban development areas. In our city, they're called strategic growth areas. If you learn anything from today, strategic growth area equals light rail. Love this. The Commission Transportation Board will assign different weights to the factors based on geographic location and other factors. Yeah, that kind of narrows it down, doesn't it? Does this bill actually do anything? Breaking news. This is what we were talking about. Diana Howard sent out this email on Thursday. Senate Bill 513 has passed its subcommittee in the House and will be heard in the full Transportation Committee Tuesday next week. 1253 has passed its committee and will be heard on Wednesday of next week. We need people to sign our petition. This is our petition web address. We're going to try to get you online to do that. Please, if you haven't done this, it takes 1 minute. You click on this link, you put your name in there, and they're going to take this up to Richmond and try to get people to oppose this. So what we're talking about is a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars. And when you talk about light rail, you need to understand that the starter line in Norfolk for $338 million was 7.4 miles, but it runs along an existing Norfolk right-of-way. They didn't have to condemn a lot of houses and businesses. So that was cherry-picking a low-cost beginning. This is a financial cancer. Once you allow this in, and they begin to continue to connect it to other places, the amount of homes and businesses and private property and the cost of this thing is going to go off the chart. But they want to give you these really nice rosy numbers from the starter line that we began with. You're talking about a lot of money. So we're going to get on to light rail. This is our nice looking light rail. By show of hands, how many of you have ridden the Norfolk light rail? Okay. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was clean, comfortable, nice. I didn't feel, I felt safe. But my gosh, do you know how fast it goes on average to get from Newtown Road to EVMS?
15.
Anybody?
15.
15 miles an hour. That's right.
That's a joke, right?
So what's going on right now? If you read the Daily Press, we have a quote down here that we're just setting the table. Right now, the Senate has increased another $8 million to do a new study to run light rail from Norfolk up to the peninsula in this year. And that proposal, they're moving the chess pieces around the board, people. When you look at this, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission will set tolls. More tolls, higher tolls, drivers pay, transit riders don't pay. Driving up the cost of all future tunnel and bridge expansions is the fact that Any tube that is proposed or built in the future must include light rail